Hi, welcome to Whole and Healthy with Chef Val. I am Chef Valerie Wilson. I've been teaching healthy whole foods cooking classes since 1997. All my recipes are vegan, I use whole foods, and I also use all organic ingredients. I'm the author of 5 cookbooks, and you can find out more information about all that I offer on my website, macroval.com. Today, I would like to teach you about squash, in particular, the butternut squash. So I'm going to show you how to cut the butternut squash because some people have a little bit of a challenge because it's so big. And I'm also going to teach you about the nutritional value of the butternut squash. This is in a category of squashes called winter squashes because we eat them mainly when it's cold outside. They come out of our garden in the fall time, and then we bring them into our house, and they usually last for months in your house. They're a very hardy vegetable, so they last a long time, which is another reason why we call them winter squashes, because we get to eat them all winter long. So you want to wash the squash first, and I already did that before I started the video, but something that I want to draw to your attention is when you get one of these butternut squashes, and sometimes there's blemishes on the skin. So I do take the peeler and I take those blemishes off because if you didn't peel that blemish off of the skin of the butternut squash, then you went to eat it, it would be chunky or hard, and we don't want that. So let's go over to the kitchen sink, and I have a peeler, and I'm just going to, like I said, I'm just going to peel off some of those blemishes off the squash. All right. So the butternut squash has a natural sweet flavor, which means it works very well in just about any recipe you put it in, because who doesn't love that naturally sweet flavor? But soups, yeah, so butternut squash works great in soups. And I like putting it in casseroles. It's wonderful that way. It pairs very well with beans. Also pairs very well with your whole grains. All right, let's just check the squash out and see if we've got all the blemishes off. There's a couple more there. All right, so we'll just get those off. Now, I don't want to take all the skin off because most of the vitamins and minerals are located right underneath the skin. And this is an organic squash, so no pesticides, no chemicals. Now, if you had a problem with the texture of the skin of the squash, you could go ahead and take all the skin off. I'd rather have you eat the healthy squash with the skin off than just not eat squash because you don't like the texture of the skin. So it's up to you. All right, let's go over to the cutting board now, and I'm going to show you how to cut this butternut squash. First of all, we want to put some water on the cutting board because you want the cutting board to be wet so it fills in the pores of the wood so that your wood doesn't absorb the color and the odor of the vegetable you're chopping. Your cutting board always stays nice that way. I do that in every cooking demo that I teach you about chopping vegetables. So the squash is very large, so the first thing we need to do is to cut it in half so it's easier to work with. So I'm just going to cut it right down here in half because it's just easier that way. That way I have the neck and I have the butt, all right? And I'm just going to chop this off here because we can't use that, right? It's the butt end of it. And then to make it more manageable, I am going to chop it in half. So again, it's a smaller size. I will chop this one in half. Again, smaller size. Now this is where the seeds are, and you could do a few things with the seeds. Now you could scoop the seeds out and dry them and then use them next year and plant them in your garden. You can scoop the seeds out and you can roast the seeds like you would roast pumpkin seeds. And or if you have enough seeds and you don't need any more seeds, you just scoop that out and discard the seeds. So those are your choices. And then you pretty much chop both halves kind of the same way. So I'm just going to demonstrate this half here for you to show you how to chop. And so we're going to assume that you're going to chop the squash into squares and you're either going to put it in a soup or you're going to put it in a bean dish. So you want to make sure you have a flat, the squash is flat when you chop it. You don't want to chop rounded, you want it flat. So I'm going to cut it in slices, like so. Sometimes the squash sticks to the knife, which is why I'm taking it off with my hand, right? So the health benefits of this beautiful butternut squash, exceptionally high in vitamin C. So we want that in the wintertime so that we stay nice and healthy. We also have vitamin A. So vitamin A is really good for your eyes. Vitamin A also is exceptionally good for your lungs, can actually help with people who have emphysema. And so also we have vitamin E, which is a natural antioxidant, B vitamins. The winter squashes help boost your immune system too to help fight off diseases. Contains niacin and also iron, exceptionally high in iron. So this is good for people who might be anemic, and also, of course, iron's great for your bone density. So here's how we're going to chop the squash. I have taken the slices and I've laid them flat. Now, I'm always trying to come up with the quickest, easiest way to get those squares. So I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut it in half again. And then these two pieces are the same size. So I can put them together and I can chop them in cubes like so. See how I do that? Put them together and then chop them into cubes. All right. So after you get the squash to a smaller, more manageable size like these slices, it's actually easy to chop up the squash like so. All right. Your butternut squash also has anti-inflammatory properties. This is very important because inflammation, when it gets into your system, causes pain like arthritis or fibromyalgia. So we don't want that at all. So here's how we chop the winter squash. Now it's all ready to put into your casserole, your soup, your bean dish, your grain dish. Very wonderfully naturally sweet, so it complements just about any dish you put it with. And so that's the butternut squash. It's in the winter squash category, and I hope you get the opportunity to buy one at the store, chop it up, and then use it in your cooking. Remember, your journey to eating healthy begins with one small step. Let's make that small step eating butternut squash.